And if you have been looking, you saw the tape from State Farm Arena going back to the 2020 election, where one of the state employees is seen counting votes. I think we saw 3 of the 4. That, if you saw the whole thing, would be 4 times that it's put in the machine. And we will, as I said, next week uh, give you the more tape. But I thought it might be useful, Ted, if we played what we showed one more time. You really have to watch this 3 or 4 times to pick it up. You also have to watch the main tape a number of times, because the way in which they edited it and took out the incriminating portions is without indicating that there was an edit. So, in other words, you're going along and you're watching something. There's no break. It just seems to be continuous. And unless you notice that the scene has changed somewhat. You see, these were, the scene would never change too much, because these were 4 security cameras installed in the ceiling by the State Farm Arena. The actors, the criminals, had no idea. They had their own monitor, which they could put anywhere they wanted, and they could edit any way they wanted. They didn't know about these tapes. So these tapes caught them in different angles. When I say 3 hours was edited, I was edited from the total of the 4. So that would be, oh my goodness, 60 hours. But not really, because there are only 3 hours on each tape that are relevant to when the false counting took place. So it really is 3 of 12 hours that was edited. And I can go through in rather great detail and tell you, by and large, what I remember being taken out. And a lot of it was incriminating with regard to certain people in particular who are being protected by the edits that were being done. Now, this was all presented as legitimate evidence by the Bar Association. And the Bar Association lawyer who did it said it was given to him this way by the Attorney General's office. So if we take him at his word, which is not a very safe thing to do, but if we do, let's just do that. Let's take him at his word. Then somebody did a serious job of fraudulently chopping up these tapes and doing it in a deceptive way. If he did it, then he did it. But he seemed not to be apologetic or care. And the presiding, whatever you call her, basically didn't seem to care, pretty much decided that I was guilty, whether these tapes were altered or not, even though some of the charges against me were based on these tapes. And since they were altered, I couldn't defend myself. But that didn't matter, because we weren't really in an American courtroom. We were in something more similar to what takes place in a totalitarian government, like you are in the District of Columbia or some of those other places. But they seem to have no interest in the missing tape. Whereas when tape and video are missing, usually it's a catastrophe among honest lawyers and judges, isn't it? I think maybe we get the idea of why it isn't a catastrophe to them. But let's watch this again, just so you get an idea of what happened was, a period of time at night, about 10 something at night, and there are observers watching the ballots being counted. The law of Georgia requires that the ballots be counted in public. These observers were told to leave. And when they all left, this counting began. This counting of the double and triple and quadruple counting. And by the way, there were ballots that were under a table. They were all taken out from under the table, and those are the ballots that were counted 3 and 4 times. And then when you look at the tabulation, it was the basis on which Biden to Trump. Now, remember, when election night ended, Trump was ahead in every one of the states where they stopped counting. And when they subsequently went back and counted, Biden won, even though Trump was ahead when they stopped. Every single one. Sound like a big coincidence? Or is it possible that my sarcastic expression, when asked when will they stop counting, and my answer was correct? So let's look again, and you can see how they count ballots in a crooked Democratic city.
Water main break at all. There was a toilet leak about 16 or 18 hours earlier in the day, leaking from the ceiling from a suite above. It was cleaned up. It had no impact on this election. The water main break pronouncement was obviously made to clear the room of all poll watchers and the media. So they were told that night that the vote count would be suspended because the water main break, and that they would resume the vote count the next morning. The next morning, everybody was stunned to learn that.
Okay, now you'll notice, I stopped it there. She took the ballots out of the machine, correct? You saw that, right? And by the way, he's wrong about the fact that they were excluded because of the water main break. The water main break there was an alleged false water main break, took place earlier in the day. It led to delay, but it had nothing to do, as far as I can tell, with the people being excluded. They were excluded and told to go home because the ballot counting was going to stop for the night. When they all left, the ballot counting resumed, which is what you're watching now. So if you focus in on desk 1, you will have already seen that, and now you're going back and forth with it. You want to show it on the screen for a second, Ted?
I'm trying to see if
you can, you'll see that she's it's already been counted once. She's taken the ballots out, and and now what should happen is she should put them in an envelope and put them over on the left of the desk with the tabulation in the machine, and they can go on and be filed.
So this way you can talk as we follow it.
So now,
should we play it?
So now let's go back and see what happens.
Should I replay it?
Does she put the ballots away, having counted them once now, or are they put back for? Let's go look.
From here or restart it?
From where we stopped.
Resume the vote count the next morning. The next morning, everybody was stunned to learn that the people at State Farm Arena, there were 5 women that worked for about 2.5 hours.
Stop again.
Just before 11.
I think you see the machine moving. You see it going through a second count. And if you look, the gentleman narrating is helping us by saying on the top there, ballot scan number 2, desk 1. So now that same group of ballots is being counted a second time. Now let's assume these ballots were, and they did turn out to be, disproportionately for Biden, like 126,000 to 7,000 or something. Well, this is going to be now a second count in which Biden gets some massive 98% to 2% lead. So let's go show that ballot being counted, and then let's watch her pick up those ballots and put them back in again.
p.m. until just before 1 a.m.
Can you hear me?
Scanning ballots.
Yep.
And
Well, you see it scanning the ballots, counting them.
Women,
and again, it still says
desks.
scan number 2.
And
Now it's over.
The first one here,
She goes over.
on her, she's wearing a purple top, desk 1.
She reorders the ballots, makes sure they're all in order.
So we don't have to sit there and watch.
Takes half of them.
It in a slower speed, but you can see that this lady is taking the same stack of ballots, and once she runs them through the scanner, there she goes. She
takes the rest out now, the second group,
and runs
puts them back with the first group.
And a third time, and then the lady.
Remember, these ballots
right,
have now been counted twice.
We've got a second video that shows that she did the same thing with a stack of ballots on her desk, and so there's ballot
and watch that machine.
Desk number 1.
Keep your eye on that machine. See it? There it goes. Now we're counting it a third time. Same ballots. You didn't see any
on the night of November 3rd,
ballots discarded, did you?
2020.
Same ballots being counted 8 times.
To see.
Now, the lady in the back in yellow is doing the same thing, but we're not focusing on it. Later on, there's going to be a singular focus on her, and you'll see that. But let's just count the one in blue or purple or whatever color that is.
Now, it doesn't take. There was no water at all. There was a toilet leak.
The lady going back and forth right now is the lady that had originally, you didn't see that, you will see it next week, was the lady that was, and she pulls a ballot out. You notice she pulls one ballot out and puts it aside. Doesn't touch the others. I figured there was something wrong with that ballot. She took it out, threw it aside.
So
now that count is finished.
The vote count would be suspended.
So now I guess we've counted 3 times, right, Ted?
Right.
Okay, so we've counted 3 times. Let's see what happens here. What do you think? You think she's going to call it tonight?
Everybody was stunned.
I mean, 3 times, that's it.
State Farm Arena, there were 5
cleaning her
women
table.
that worked for about 2.5 hours from just before 11.
I don't know why it says number 2 up there, unless we went back. We might have gone back.
This might be rewinding.
We slipped back. You're watching. Well, let's just go right through it. Let's go
through the whole video from the start.
Just go right through. Just go right through 2. It'll go to 3, and then we'll be. Once we get to 3, we'll be back where we were originally.
This is at 4x speed, so we don't have to sit there and watch.
I know this is a little painstaking, but this is really worth watching because this blows open the idea that there was no fraud during the. You see it with your own eyes.
There she goes. She sticks them back in.
You see her putting all the ballots back together again.
Time and a third time, and then the lady to her right, wearing the yellow top. We've got a second video that shows that she did the same thing with a stack of ballots.
The blonde-haired woman that going back and forth is the one who originally got the ballots for her.
Number 3.
So she's just checking in to make sure everybody has a sufficient number of ballots. She would go get more for you. Yes. After you've counted them so often, it gets a little ridiculous. So now we're on ballot scan 3. We backed up a little. We're now, you can see the machine. If you look on the top of the screen, you can see the machine moving the ballots through.
And instead of having people coming in and testifying about who ran the red light, you got a video showing who ran the red light.
We'll have to find the rest of the video.
Oh,
we got the 3 at least here.
Does it end here?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll get the rest of the video ready for next
Monday.
On to a number 4. That'll go on to a number 4. She'll take a short break. There'll be there'll be 3. She'll do 3, and then we'll go to the woman in the back in the yellow, who I believe does a foursome. In other words, she does the same ballots counted 4 times.
So we'll go through on America's Mayor Confidential Monday. We'll go through the whole tape from the top.
We'll go over the whole
Straight
tape
through.
And then a few of the other similar situations. So when they tell you that there was no false counting, when the Attorney General Raffensperger tells you that, Governor Kemp and the Democratic Party tells you there was no false counting, what the hell was that? I mean, that was outrageous. That was open, notorious. It can't be anything other than what you see. And they just completely lied about it and snowed everyone. And when Attorney General Barr was asked to investigate Atlanta, Georgia, he didn't. Remember, Attorney General Barr is the guy that was covering up the hard drive at the time. So why would he be investigating this? He had enough evidence to blow up the whole election with the hard drive, which he hid. People might say, why are you going over all of this? Because you're doomed to repeat it if you don't face it. If you let them get away with it, they're going to, and again, and there goes our republic. Gone. I know that because it's gone in my city. My city is not a democratic, small d city. It's not a republic. My city is what would be considered on a small scale a city, a dictatorship. It's a democratic dictatorship. Every judge voted into office as a Democrat. Most of them are voted in without opposition, which means every judge is selected by the political party bosses, and they are beholding to them, which ends up with a court that is considerably less than an honest court. You don't change that unless you change this. And this is a disgrace, what happened in this election. And the bigger disgrace is how the press covered it up. So let's spend just a little bit more time on what happened now that we are at the end of the week on Thursday, which was one of the most embarrassing situations I've ever seen in an American city. It was turned into a red Chinese city. The features of San Francisco yesterday, you look like you were in Beijing. Now, the only people out you saw were Chinese. The only thing you saw were a number of red communist Chinese flags with a few American flags, all made in China, I'm sure. And the reason I say all Chinese people is, why are they so happy about seeing their dictator? What kind of people are these? Are they brainwashed? Are they communist operatives? Or are they just people that just do anything you tell them to do? When you look at these pictures, they're jumping up and down like it's the Beatles. Well, it isn't the Beatles. It's the it isn't the Beatles. The guy is the person on earth that has killed the most Chinese people. And that's the reception that he gets. He's killed more Chinese people than anybody presently living. The only people who have killed more are his predecessor, homicidal dictators like Stalin or Mao in the case of China. So what's all the applause for? And the smiling? And the jumping up and down. Did you show a little of the picture?
Do it now so you can do it while talking. You can talk over it.
Yeah, I mean, it is very, very odd that you'd have that many Chinese people so happy. Look at that. The man seems happy to see him. I mean, a good chance he killed his father. I think they did a pretty good idea of making the murderer feel completely comfortable. I mean, here's a guy that we'd have to debate whether he killed 10 or 20 million people. And these are Chinese people clapping for him. So are they Chinese communists in the United States? Do we have that many? Do we have that many Chinese communists in the United States? Are they just fooled? Brainwashed, coerced? And with this kind of devotion to the head of the Chinese Communist Party, are they dangerous? This man seems pretty happy that a murdering dictator has just come to his city. Well, these people are smiling, waiting for him. Now, is this completely... look at them in their little Chinese communist outfits. So this bears a great deal more analysis if this is the kind of infiltration we have from the Chinese communists, that they can produce a crowd like that cheering for a murderous dictator. And of course, Biden just sucked on every body part that he had. I mean, he just was pathetic. Biden was absolutely pathetic. Began by saying what a great honor and pleasure it was to have him. A great honor and pleasure to have a man who's got the blood of 10 million people on his hands. And that's our president. Our president gets nothing, but, I'm sorry. He got a promise that Xi Jinping is going to reduce the amount of fentanyl coming into the country. He's promised that twice before, and it's increased to record levels under Biden. There's not a reason in the world to believe that, including the fact that communists are trained to lie. They're supposed to lie. He's supposed to tell the truth. He doesn't, but Biden is supposed to tell the truth. But Xi is supposed to lie. And he's lied about this before, and there's no reason to believe he's not lying about it now. Now, will Biden follow through on what he said he was going to do? Just to lift this been placed on because they were committing genocide against the Uyghur people, and to lift the sanctions because they were stealing intellectual property. I think he's probably already done it. Whatever happened to trust but verify? If you're dealing with a country, they should first come across with what you need, and then you'll give them what they need, because they need a lot more than we do. It's their economy that's going down right now. That's why they needed the meeting. We'll have more on that next week, as well as we follow it up and see what the takeaways are. I mean, he did a lot of foolish things during this. He introduced Little Lord Fauntleroy as our next president. That's the of California, Newsom. Newsom, by the way, looks like he probably will be the candidate, because he's gone for the ceremonial necessary blessing from Xi, because he went to China about a month ago, I would imagine, to make sure that Xi is comfortable with it, since Xi has an unholy amount of influence over Biden, for which there are, 31.5 million reasons. And if you ever need tapes, I'm sure the Chinese have tapes that go way beyond anything I have or that I can produce about Joseph Biden, and therefore can get him to do anything that they want. So far, they have. They even got an Air Force base done away with 400 miles from China. That was a massive threat to them. They can all breathe a lot easier that Joe got rid of that air base completely against the interests of his country and solely in the interests of China. Gives you an idea of where Joe's heart really is. So, Ted, any interesting questions come in, or we'll send people off for the weekend and football?
A lot of support for the bow tie. Some comments.
Support. I mean, some people don't like it, you know.
Season. Look, you can pull it off. Not everyone is into bow ties. You've changed my mind on bow ties. Before you, I never really.
Do you know
was a bow
why
tie guy.
I wear them? I don't like the way they look particularly. I like doing them.
You too. That's right.
I like doing them. I feel
the thing.
I have to admit to you, it took me a while to learn how to do it. It is not easy. So I feel sense of accomplishment. Got this done in 1.5 tries.
That's right. Well, I think you didn't do it out here though. I don't think you did it. You didn't do it on set.
I did it out there. I did it in there. Remember the last one, the black tie. It took me about 20 minutes. I had real trouble with that.
And that's a real black tie. Mine was I'm not going to say it because
what was the clip on?
Yeah, but I don't want to say that. I mean, what kind of man wears a clip on for a black tie event?
I
know most, but Mayor, we're not most. You're definitely not most. I don't want to be most.
That's not the sign.
I don't want to be like everybody else.
Doing a bow tie, sign of a man. The sign of a man is acknowledging that you have a granddaughter when you do and taking care of her. That's the sign of a man. The sign of a woman.
I see what you're doing here.
The sign of a woman who's a stepmother is not putting out 6 stockings for heavens whose heart you're breaking. That's the sign of a good person, not doing a bow tie. A good person doesn't take money from the Chinese communists. This whole notion about whether Joe got any of the money or not does have a lot to do with how long he should go to prison. And you'll find out that he did get the money. Got every penny he was entitled to, which is half. And I'm not making that up. That's December 25th, 2018. Joe to Naomi. I've been giving half my salary to my father for the last 30 years. So go check it. But in any event, the reality is that these people are just dangerous to our country. I mean, there's one thing. I mean, there are people who take bribes, and that's very, very bad, and it deteriorates the government. But they take bribes that jeopardize our national security. Taking bribes from China is jeopardizing our national security. Taking bribes from the mayor's wife is jeopardizing our national security. Taking bribes from Zlochevsky in Ukraine, I don't know if you'd say that it just is a terrible crime. And since it's between the president of the United States and the president of Ukraine, it's a sellout at the highest level of government. Probably the most significant bribe ever in American history that we know about. And hopefully it is the most significant bribe in American history. I mean, we had Agnew who took bribes, but if my recollection serves me correct, those were bribes he was owed from when he was governor of Maryland, and he collected them because I guess he was cheap in the White House. You'd think he would have forgotten about the bribes once he became vice president. But I'm pretty sure that somebody came and delivered to him an envelope that was owed to him when he was governor of Maryland in the White House, and there was no special residence for the vice president then. That came a little bit after. But I'm going to go back and look at how much money it was. Compared to what the Bidens got, it was a chicken feed. These are massive crooks. And the damage they're doing to this country, I don't know how we let them get away with it and don't throw them out. What's wrong with us? I don't know what's wrong with the people in Washington who put up with it, including Democrats. I mean, Democrats are Americans, aren't they? Last time I checked, they're Americans. I know they were the party of slavery, but they're still Americans. Party of segregation, party of Jim Crow.
They certainly were. We are the party of Republicans.
And now the party of record murders in almost every American city. The party of that favors the mutilation of children without parents' consent. That's quite a political party you got there. So we'll be back next week. And back at 8, our lucky time. And, of course, we'll be back at 3 every day on WABCRadio.com. And, of course, our very, very special show on Sunday, Uncovering the Truth with Dr. Maria, and we cover this weekend. This was quite a week of developments. Well, God bless you. God bless the people of Israel, and look after them. Look after your chosen people, dear God. And dear God, look after us, America, and let us live up to all the bounty that you've given us. Thank you. God bless America.